All right, well, let's get started. I know some more people are coming, but one of the things that, we're talking about facilitation today, and one of the things that as facilitators you're going to do is make sure that things start and end on time. So let's model that here and get started. 4 minutes late. We're 4 minutes late. Before we dive in, I've got a lot to cover in 90 minutes, but before we dive in, I'm curious if you guys can gouge Kelly. If you would just share, I want to know where your head is. So I've got stuff to share with you today about like, what's your role? What's the agenda going to be like? I'd like to know where your head is. Do you have any concerns, questions, or excitement that you want to share before we dive in? So I want to be sure that we cover as much as we can with you today.
Well, I'll go first. I've not planned anything, or my anxiety has planned all kinds of things, but I've not planned anything because I've been, drum roll, waiting for this meeting to start picking that up and know where I'm going and what I'm supposed to do before I spend a whole lot of energy putting together some templates. And then you say, well, I already had templates.
Yep. You said your anxiety was taking you all over the place. Can you give me one thing your anxiety was telling you?
That we put together all these details, we have the group, and then a week and a half later, we're putting the guys that are actually leading together to tell the guys that are leading what they're doing. There's where my anxiety laid.
Telling the guys leading what they're doing. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm assuming today we're going to talk about format and kind of what this direction goes, unless you're going to have 6 groups that are all just going off in their own direction. So I didn't know, is Conduit wanting to funnel kind of in a direction that these guys, the groups are going to run, or are we all going to, one group's going to be heavy diving into finance because that's where people's struggles are, and another group's going to be diving into personnel because that's where their struggles are, and then you're all going to come to the monthly speaker series, and everyone's going to be frayed.
Excellent. Okay, good question. We will cover that today. Anybody else? Anything else on your mind? Concerns? Anybody else got their anxiety telling them something? John?
It's not so much anxiety. I think it's exciting. Just in my past, having done some of this and bringing people together to get collective thought going, I would share some of Andrew's thoughts. Are we wanting to have a structured agenda where all of the teams or all the round tables are week 1, we talk about this, month 2, we talk about that. So there's some kind of organized flow to it, or will each group be somewhat like our Tuesday morning videos where it kind of meanders a little bit and the topic kind of bubbles up to the top, the point of interest for that day, so, but I'm like Andrew. I thought, well, I've used templates and agendas and things before, but let's put all that aside. Let's get something more uniform and that we're all going the same way. So perfect. I think it's going to be really good.
We will definitely cover that today, John. Yeah, Chase.
I'm just happy to be here. I'm excited. I feel really good about it. I trust that train. The train's going by.
You trust that the train.
That's all I really needed to say. I'm good. The train's going to keep going by. Just grateful.
All right. Good. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Ryan, you're on mute.
Press the space bar.
So 2 things, Andrew, to your point, I went to a retreat years ago, and one of the things that the retreat leader said was, don't anticipate, just participate. And I always thought that was just a really wise thing to say. And again, one of the things I'm just blown away the time I've spent with Jerry, Paul, and Kelly with this, like in the materials. I mean, they just look amazing. So so much of the excitement is just being able to take a sneak peek at this and see how well done it is.
Oof, now the bar's high. Thanks, Ryan. nothing like pressure.
Wow, there we go.
It's yours to lose now, folks.
All right. Why'd you have to say that in a meeting that I'm leading, Ryan? You should have done that to Kelly.
Yeah, that's what Jerry normally does.
I did that to Kelly. Yeah.
Yes, he sure did.
You
All
did
right,
really
well-
well, Kelly.
All right. Thanks for that.
Chase?
Rick, Myra, I don't want to skip you. Any thoughts on your mind?
My space bar pressing doesn't work, Chase. I share everyone's sentiments. I'm thankful to be teamed up with Ryan. I feel like we have a really good group. I feel like I'm interested, and I know, Paul, that my anxiety has been low because I know that you will be feeding us the information and that it's not on our shoulders to create. So I'm leaning into kind of how can I be a good facilitator of what you want us to be, kind of leading the group. And Ryan and I had a conversation briefly, and just, what does it look like for us to ask good questions and to lead the conversation? And we don't have to, I don't feel like I'm responsible to bring content, but kind of take the content and share it through our own personal lens and experience, and help add color to it and get the guys to talk and chat. So
Exactly. Yep. Awesome. Okay. Thanks. So let's dive in. I do have some slides. They're more to keep me on track than anything, but let's start by the boring part. Part of what some of you were talking about there, asking about, was, what the heck is this meeting? What are we going to do? Is it going to be uniform? Is it going to be sort of a one-off? I want to tell you that it's going to be a little bit of both, but let's just start by talking about what a mastermind group actually is. Some of this may be boring, but this builds to kind of why we're going to do it the way we're doing it. It's a group of like-minded people. That's easy, right? We're all in Conduit because we're all leaders, business owners, business managers, depending on where you are. And we're all trying to tackle a lot of the same problems. So we're going to work together. The mastermind group is designed to work together to define and solve problems. So when it comes to content that's coming in, you're going to be working as a facilitator to work with content that people are bringing. There may be times where Jerry, Kelly, and I have some information we might want you to share. I want you to think about as you go along that, hey, our group could use information on this specific kind of topic. And then the agenda we're going to look at a little bit later in this meeting, it can be flexible. It doesn't have to be exactly like the agenda that I'm going to share. So if there's a need in a group to do something a little different than the agenda, we can certainly do that. This is a place to share best practices. So give and take is a big part of being in a mastermind group and making a mastermind group useful for everybody involved. Also creating action plans. So mastermind groups are not places you go to sit on your hands and talk about doing stuff. They're places to go because you're going to do stuff, because you want to do stuff, and that you are, next bullet point, willing to be held accountable and willing to hold others accountable. So those are two different things, by the way. You're going to probably experience the sensation of both, the discomfort that comes with both being held accountable and being the person holding others accountable. So these are things that that a mastermind group is centered around, because that's why we're there. We're there to help one another. And success is specific to each person. So we're not going to define what success is for you in the group, and you're not going to define it for your group. Each person in that group is going to be defining what success looks like for them, and you're going to be helping them as a group to facilitate getting to that success. So why a mastermind group? Well, the power of the group, all of us together in this room today can come up with better solutions than I can by myself. There's no question about that. I see that happen in Slack conversations, phone conversations, and meetings with all of you all the time. Every time I have coffee and breakfast with Ryan, I'm writing something brilliant down that comes up because the two of us together are better than any one of us. If you think about this right here, if you can accomplish one thing as a facilitator, this will make your group phenomenal. If you can facilitate the collective intelligence of your group and perspectives of your group, helping everyone in that room, including you, then you're a winner as a facilitator. So really think about that as a principle to going forward and running your group. Let's talk about what a mastermind is not, because this is just as important. It's not a group coaching session, so you can relax, exhale. You are not there to coach everyone and fix their problems. That's not your job as a facilitator. Group members are there to coach one another. Different than coaching. I drive some of my clients nuts with this. Coaches generally don't give a lot of advice. We coach. Facilitators are allowed to give advice. You're allowed to share your best practices and your thoughts. But you're not there because you're the know-it-all. Keep that in mind. So that's a difference between coaching and facilitating, is you're allowed to share advice. You're allowed to share your ideas. It's not a place to judge one another's goals. So in other words, if I'm in a group with Ryan and I say, gosh, one of my goals is to raise my revenue by $50,000 this year. It's not a place for Ryan to go, come on, Paul, you can do better than that, right? Maybe it would be if I'm asking for that kind of input. But we're here to let people define and achieve their goals. Every person should be trying to solve the problems they have to solve to achieve the business that they want to achieve. In all of my work with eMyth, one of the things I've liked the most is we have a saying that every business should serve the owner's life. And that's going to be true for everybody in your group. Their business needs to serve their life in the way they want it to, not the way the other group members think it should serve them. So it's very individual in that. Any questions about that before we move on to, yes, Ryan?
I'm guessing that in the material we're going to kind of have those same parameters, in materials that we're giving to the group saying, that's what this is. This is not a group coaching session. You're kind of,
yes.
Okay, cool.
Yep. We want to make it clear. Expectations need to be clear for everybody there. Yep.
Okay.
Chase.
And a lot of the other slides, there were gift baskets or bags. Well, there'll be gift bags.
If you bring them.
Touche.
Stock photography, my friend. Stock photography. All right. So Jerry and Kelly and I talked with Kevin Raines the other day. What a treat that was. Well, Jerry and I did. Sorry, I don't think Kelly. Yeah, you were there, Kelly. Kevin made this statement. The answer is in the room, but it's not at the front of the room. So I really want you as facilitators to relax into the fact that you don't have to have all the answers. Rick Boyle's not here, but when I was talking with him, I don't think he'd mind if I share that that was his one concern. He said, hey, I don't want everybody to think I know everything. And Rick knows a lot, but he doesn't have to know everything, and neither do you. So your job as a facilitator is to find the answer in the room, but it doesn't have to come from you. Part of it or some of it might come from you. Again, that's the difference between coaching and facilitation, is that you get to share some of your thoughts. What a facilitator is not. I'll repeat this over and over because I really want you to relax into it. You are not the expert in the room. There are going to be times when you are the expert in the room. You're going to share your expertise, but you're not there to dominate the conversation, and you're not there to be everyone's accountability partner. So I don't want you to feel like you have to take on the load from 1 month to the next. And we'll talk more about this, but from 1 month to the next, you don't have to take on the load of holding everyone accountable to all the goals and commitments that they make in the meetings. We'll talk about some ways that you can actually have the group help you do that, so you're not burdened with keeping track of all that. Now, what your role is, this is a much longer list. First and foremost, your role is to lead. If your group is going to stay on time, stay focused, dig deep, it's going to be up to you as a facilitator to facilitate that happening, because you're going to have chaos if you don't. So you're going to create an experience that the group has by leading the group. And again, we have an agenda we'll review today to give you some ways to do that. You're going to teach the group how to take conversations deeper. You're going to teach the group how to ask questions that get into root causes, that get into the details that need to be explored. If you're sitting there right now going, well, what if I don't know how to do that? We'll talk more about that. We'll keep working at that and give you the tools that you need to do that. Keep in mind always that you may be a mentor to your group, meaning you may be the most experienced person in the room. Because look, I'm looking at a group of people in this meeting. You're all very experienced, accomplished people. So it's very likely that you could be the most experienced person in your group. The reason that's important is you've got to be careful not to dominate the group inadvertently. So, and I'll keep driving that home, because I don't want you to feel the burden of needing to have all the answers, but I also don't want you to squelch the input of the people that are in your group by inadvertently sharing too quickly. So you're going to be teaching the group how to ask questions by asking questions. We're going to create an environment as a facilitator where everybody feels safe. Crazy ideas are often where breakthroughs come from, but crazy ideas are often nerve-wracking to bring out. So we got to be sure that the group feels safe in bringing up crazy ideas. Your job is going to be to keep people on task. That might mean interrupting. That might mean bringing a conversation back. That might mean, hey, you can have that at another time, but I don't think it's appropriate in this conversation we're having. So this is going to be a role that you have to keep people on task. And help, I just already mentioned the crazy, creative, crazy questions. There are no dumb questions. We all know that's wrong. There are dumb questions. We've heard them and we've probably asked them ourselves. But people have to be comfortable to ask the questions that might feel like dumb questions, because that's where answers are going to come from. One of your roles, this is another important role as a facilitator, is to be sure that everybody participates equally. We all know that there are people in a group who talk a lot. There are people in a group who talk a little. We don't want to make people uncomfortable by calling them out and forcing them out, but we do want to be sure that people are participating in the meeting, at least in some level. No wallflowers. No one gets to show up and just sit in the corner and listen, because the group gets robbed of their intellect. We can't come up with solutions that include the intelligence of everybody in the group if some in the group are withholding and not sharing what they're saying. So it's for their good and for the good of the group that they need to participate. You'll gauge that based on different people. You know, you won't have to ask Jerry to share. You might have to get him to shut up, but you might have to get other people to contribute and jump in. And you'll have to be attentive to, if Jerry's in your group, good luck. If Jerry's in your group, you may have to make sure that you keep him from dominating. We know you do it in a loving way, Jerry. Your job also is to be fully conscious and present in every meeting. Now, I know that can seem obvious, but it's also something I'm sure we're all guilty of, kind of trying to multitask, do more than one thing at a time. You won't be able to effectively lead your group if you're doing that. And here's a big one: keep your meeting on time. We're going to talk more about that when we get to the agenda. 2 hours. Does 2 hours seem like a lot of time to you guys? John saying maybe, Ryan saying no.
Not to me.
Rick Meyer, are you nodding yes? It sounds like a lot of time. Yeah. Okay. All right. For me, it seems like very little time to do what we're going to try to do in that 2 hours. So, and bear in mind that we're launching with an agenda that we are very open to adapting and adjusting as we go. So this is, you know, this is V.1, and we're willing to go to V.2 as we get feedback and keep working at it. So again, reiterating, you want to be the one asking good questions. If you're worried about how to ask good questions, we're going to keep working on that. But you want them to be thought-provoking so that you're showing the group how to do it. You want to ask questions that model for your group how to ask questions. And you want to help keep on track, help keep people on track to what they're committing to do. Now, I mentioned a minute ago that you are not the accountability partner of everyone in the group, because you're going to just have too much to do if you are. What I'm going to encourage you to do is match people up with an accountability partner in the group. You can do this in a sticky way, meaning, hey, Kelly, will you be my accountability partner? And Kelly's my accountability partner from now on. We're sharing that responsibility with one another. You could also choose from 1 month to the next to reassign new accountability partners each month. So there's some flexibility. I would say you could like poll your group, decide what you want to do in the group, and then you can decide how to handle that. But this will keep you as the facilitator from having to be chasing everybody down. If somebody says, hey, I want somebody to keep me accountable next week for doing this by Tuesday. Well, I don't want you as facilitators to have to be tracking all of that. This will become a part-time job for you if you do. So get your group to be choosing accountability partners, or you can assign them, or you can choose them up each month or make them sticky, make them stay from one month to the next so that you're not re-choosing them. Make sense? Any questions before I move on to group member roles? I know I'm moving quickly and I'm hoping that the whole body of what we're covering today brings up a discussion for all of us. Any thoughts or concerns or questions about facilitator role? I'm hitting the high levels. I'm sure there's a lot.
I've got one.
Yeah.
In my experience, I've had a hard time in groups with accountability partners. A suggestion that I haven't done but came to mind while you were talking is that when you assign accountability partners and you come back the next month and they haven't done the accountability part, that is a time when you can, like basically make it a rhythm that you're going to follow up in the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So like my experience has just been you assign accountability partners and they don't, like it doesn't happen. But if it's a rhythm of saying, like in the following month, bringing it up and saying, okay, how did that go?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. That's been a way that I've gotten a little bit of traction on that, but I'd also be curious if you have any other suggestions on how to make that work better.
Yeah, I love that, Dakota. And I mean, I don't love that you've struggled with it, but I love that you brought it up because frankly, accountability is probably the #1 tool that's going to help us all achieve more being in these groups. When I'm talking about accountability partners, I'm talking about, so the whole group is your accountability partner, meaning when we get to the agenda part, you'll see I'm going to be in, if this is our group and I'm in this group, I'm going to say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, or just X by the time we meet next month. Or I want to do it within 2 weeks. Well, if it's happening by next month when we meet, the entire group can be my accountability partner. But if I want somebody to hold me accountable in 2 weeks, this is where I don't want you as facilitators to have to be following up with every person in your group because it's going to be burdensome. So I might say, if I'm the facilitator, I might say, hey, Dakota needs an accountability partner to hold him accountable 2 weeks from now. Will you do that, Kelly? Or will somebody be willing to do that? So someone can become that person who agrees to say, yes, I'm going to text, call, email Dakota in 2 weeks to see if he did what he said he would do. So primarily I see accountability partners as being between meeting interactions. And I would encourage you to encourage your group to support one another between meetings in that way. Having an accountability partner that's doing it between meetings is just a way to intentionally increase that conversation that goes on and that support that goes on between. Because look, 30 days is a long time. If I commit to having a meeting with someone or reaching out to someone or writing a new job description for the position I need to hire for, I need to do that sooner than a month. So I need somebody to hold me. I might say, I want to do it by next week. And if I say that, Ryan might go, hey, Paul, can I call you, text you, hold you accountable to that? Yes, I'd love that. So I don't know if that addresses or sort of adds to what you said, Dakota. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that hits it. I mean, what I'm hearing you say is you're trying to eliminate the responsibility of us to keep people on track. That can be passed to different people in the group. That being said, when the group meets the next month and you talk about how the previous month went, there's going to be natural accountability that way as well. So there's kind of an additional accountability that can happen within the group. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly.
Does that sound right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I would say, even rather than calling it natural accountability, I would say intentional accountability. We're going to ask each member to report back each month on what they committed to. So when I coach a client one-on-one, I leave every meeting with them with commitments. What are your commitments between now and the next time we meet? And sometimes, like I just met with a client this morning, he said, I'm going to do X. And I said, when are you going to do that by? Well, I'm going to do it Monday. I said, oh, good. I'll text you on Tuesday and see if you did it.
Love it.
So what I don't want you to have to do as facilitators is to be that guy or gal. I want them to have an accountability partner within the group that's willing to do that for them, because then it's going to reciprocate. right? So if I'm in the group, I might say, Jerry, I'm going to do this by Monday. Will you text me on Tuesday? And he might say, sure, Paul, and I'm going to do this by Wednesday. Would you text me on Thursday? Right? So it's shared accountability for tasks or things we want to do before the month reaches. Because 30 days in the life of a business, you guys know you do a lot in 30 days. And the people in your group are going to be doing a lot in 30 days. Or at least we hope they are. We hope they are. That's your experience in that, Dakota, is very valuable. I appreciate you. So let's talk about your members' roles. And this is important because, again, I don't want you dragging the group along. I want you facilitating the group and them doing what they want to do already. So they have to want to be part of your group. That seems natural, doesn't it? They wouldn't be there if they don't want to be. Well, they need to understand they need to want to be participating. That's what being part of the group is. So they've got to be willing to ask for help. If people come to your groups and they're never asking for help, they're probably not contributing to the group in a way they need to. So we need them to ask for help, and they need to be willing to give help. So when somebody needs help, they've got to be willing to contribute. Obviously, be respectful. We are working on some sort of guidelines for the groups that'll be clear, so we can state all this, to your point, Ryan, so everybody agrees that this is what they're going to do. They have to be willing to grow and change. I always tell my clients, knowledge is not power. Doing something with the knowledge is power. So mastermind groups are about doing something with the knowledge. So we don't want people showing up and just talking about it. And they have to be willing to be held accountable. Again, that can be uncomfortable, but you have to be willing to open yourself up to accountability and to hold others accountable. And I've already touched on taking action, not just planners. They got to be committed to trust and confidentiality. We've got to go into a group trusting that I can be open, vulnerable, and share whatever it is I need to share, and know that that information is not leaving that group. So that's something that I think is unspoken, but also needs to be spoken. We need to say it out loud, and we may need to say it out loud numerous times as we get started here to remind people to make sure that they understand what they're in this group for. They need to show up on time. So I started 4 minutes late today. That was poor facilitation. Grace periods are for payments on your truck. They're not for your mastermind group. I would encourage all of you to set the standard that you start on time. If people want to dilly-dally and chit-chat, they need to get there 10 minutes early. Right? I used to, when I would walk on a construction site and guys were drinking coffee at 8:15, I'd be like, hey, drink that in your truck on the way here. We're not here to drink coffee, get started. So you want to get your meeting started on time. And I know that can feel inconvenient when you're starting and someone pops in 5 minutes late, but you'll be establishing a clear line that you are, it always disrespects all the people in the group, in my opinion. I hate being the guy who was prompt and then waiting around for the guy who wasn't. And so you just want to really establish that right up front. And they need to commit to making every meeting. So again, a group is only as powerful as all the brains that show up in that meeting. So it's important that we don't have people who are just skipping meetings all the time. So I jumped ahead and talked about the accountability partners. I don't think we need to really hit on this. So it can be fixed or it can rotate. I just want to be sure that you as facilitators don't feel like you're constantly keeping track of what everybody's doing, or this will be too much work for you. Any questions about any of those things? Ryan?
I'm not sure if I've missed it in some of the earlier events or whatever, but how long is the mastermind group designed to be in group? Is it a term of a year? Is it, what does that look like?
That's a great question. Jerry, Kelly, I don't know if we really nailed that down. We've talked about like a 6-month window, Ryan. I don't know if if we did, I don't remember it. Can you guys help me out?
We recently talked about it being a year, and curious how that hits people's ears. We feel like by the time you're only meeting once a month, by the time you really start to form a rhythm, a relationship, the accountability, the trust, and if you just limit it to 6 months, you kind of did the hard part. And now when you've gotten to the good part, it's ending. So we felt that 12 months might be a good run path. How does that feel to everybody else?
Very good. And I couldn't agree more. It takes a while to feel comfortable. And as Paul mentioned, some folks will speak up a whole lot, others maybe not too much at first. So the more you're around the group, the comfort level builds. There gets to be an understanding that, yes, I can be a little vulnerable here. I can share my weakness, and it's not going to be out on the street tomorrow, So I couldn't agree more. Yeah, a 12-month run is good. 6 months, too short.
I think that being in the material up front, day one, would probably have some value.
Anybody else? I like the 12 months as well, Kelly and John. I like that as well. Because being someone who's 50% introvert, I can imagine it would take me a couple of months to trust you bunch of people. Although I know all of you now, so.
I have a couple of things. One, Tommy and I met earlier this week up the road at Coffee Please and talked about the group to kind of meet Tommy, right? And understand Tommy understands Andrew. But in that discussion, we talked about a few things. Like tardiness. I can't stand tardiness. I sit on too many boards. I'm a Robert's Rules follower, and let's just get GSD, right? So when people are late, I don't acknowledge them. I just keep moving, sit down, catch up, let's go. When the missing meetings, so what is Conduit's view on, like, all of a sudden you got a guy that just misses 2 straight meetings? Is he a drag to the group? Is there a discussion? Do you pull off to the side? What are the expectations on managing that? And I know this is kind of like a group thing, but somehow you always got that one guy that always has emergencies and is always texting and on his phone. My philosophy is I'm committing time to you, you commit time to me, and the phone stays in the pocket.
I agree with all those things. I think being on time, I do encourage you to start your meetings on time, even if someone's late and not there. I would start the meeting on time. Like I said, I think it's disrespectful to the rest of the group. If you've got 5 people sitting waiting on one person, that's just disrespectful. So I would start your meetings on time. I would say if somebody misses 2 meetings, tell us. Again, I don't think you as facilitators need to be the disciplinarian to a large degree. You can hold them accountable if you wanted as a facilitator to call them up and say, hey, you've missed a couple of meetings. I'm just making sure everything's okay. Is there something you need? Are you still engaged? What's going on? If you want to do that. Otherwise, I would say you could tell us. You could tell me, Kelly, Jerry, and we can have that conversation with the person in the group. I mean, it is a conduit feature function, the group is. So and yeah, because it could be a sign of something. So I don't necessarily see it as somebody being a loser. It could be a sign of someone being like, maybe they don't feel like the group is a fit for them. And so we would be able to then shift them to a different group potentially.
Or maybe they're struggling with their business.
But yeah, that could be too. But that's even more reason they need to be in the group. But
Right.
we're anticipating that some percentage of people may get in their group and a month or 2 in, kind of go, geez, I don't like that John Kane guy. I don't think I want him as my facilitator. And if that happens, I don't see that. I've done too many coach matching calls at eMyth. I just know that no matter how good a coach is or how good a business owner is, there's going to be personality mismatches. It's not either their fault. And so we're just anticipating that that's likely to happen. And if it does, then we just want to know about it. And one of us will have a conversation with them and we'll shift them to a different group.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the way I look at that, Andrew, and I agree with everything you said, the tardiness, the phones, all those things, there has to be an agreement up front that we're all going to be focused and present in the meetings. I think the older version of me is different than the younger version of me, because the younger version of me would have said, put your damn phone away and stop screwing around. The older version of me would handle it with a little bit more care and kindness. And so I think we do need to hold standards and we do need to hold people accountable to being in the group. We just need to do it respectfully and with care.
Right, you're paying to be here, but that doesn't give you a reason to be sloppy.
Exactly. I agree. Yep. I mean, I always think about what would they do if their employee did it to them.
Hmm.
You know, I have clients who commit to do work on their business and then they skip it. And I say, you know, if you were meeting your CEO at your business, would it be okay if you skipped the meeting? And when they think about it like that, they're like, well, no, it wouldn't be. Well, why do you skip it all the time then? So it's, we'll definitely want to deal with that. And I would say, I mean, I don't think Jerry and Kelly and I have spoken about that specifically, at least not in that detail. But I do anticipate that somebody is going to have a group that they don't love. And so if they're missing meetings, then that would be an indicator to me that that might be the case. And we would certainly want to find that out.
Fair.
I always try to use API, assume positive intent, until they prove otherwise. That's something the younger version of me did not do. I just assumed lazy intent.